Hello, all, and welcome back to this day in history. It is June 23rd, 2024. It's a little bit ago is a little bit of overcast, but now it looks like uh, some of the blue skies are trying to break through the clouds. It did rain earlier today, but it looks like it's kind of you know moving on, and which means it'll probably be a scorcher tomorrow. But we're not here for weather now, are we? We're here for this day in history. So let's get started. Um, June 23rd birthdays start. We're starting with 1912. Alan Turing, who was a British mathematician and logician, he was born on this day. 1929, June Carter Cash. Um, that's the wife of Johnny Cash, the country crooner. They were both musicians, singers, in the golden age of like during the Grand Ole Opry era. The 50s is when they June was more established than Johnny was. Johnny got established later on in the 50s, but June had been she had been established for a while. But at any rate, June Carter's birthday would have been today in 1929. 1948, we see the birth of Clarence Thomas. That would be United States Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. His birthday is today. Joss Whedon. He is an American screenwriter, producer, director. You might know some of his work, like, say, Firefly, Serenity. There was a bunch of other stuff that he had done. And his birthday's today. He was born in 1964. And the thing with Joss Whedon is like, he's got a lot of good stuff there. And I don't know if Hollywood just hates him or what. I remember I saw which one was the movie, Serenity or Firefly? I can't remember which. I saw the movie before I ever saw the TV series. And I had some roommates that actually had the TV series. It only went one season. But here's the thing is that series was so good. I cannot for the life of me understand why it got canceled after one season. The writing was spectacular. It was awesome. Everything about it was just superb. I don't understand it wasn't cheesy dialogue. It was, really good dialogue, really good storytelling, and I don't understand why it was scrapped when it was such an obvious good series. It could have easily gone 7 seasons or better. It was, in my opinion, it was that good. So, happy birthday, Joss. 1972, Zinedine Zidane, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, French football player. Well, when I say French football, we know that I'm assuming it's soccer. The featured birthdays from 1940, Wilma Rudolph. She was a sprinter. She was the first American woman to win 3 track and field medals, gold medals, in a single Olympic Games. So I didn't quite catch what year that was, but she pretty impressive. She's the first woman, and that's not to say that she's the first African American woman to get these medals. No, she was the first American woman to get these, to legitimately win these medals, and that says something. That's a huge accomplishment for an African American woman. So, well done, and happy birthday. If she's still alive, I don't know. I can't imagine why she wouldn't be. 1940 isn't that long ago. Should be what? 84? We're going to go back in time to 1298. We're rounding out the end of the 13th century. German king Adolf of Nassau was deposed, and he was replaced by Albert I. That happened on this day. On this day in 1817, popular English actor John Philip Kemble, he retired, which it was his last performance was on this day in 1817. He retired on his last performance where he played Coriolanus. Coriolanus was a Shakespeare play based on a Roman officer in the 6th century, I think. I read a little bit on it, but did not, obviously not enough to really know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Now we fast forward to 1865. This is pretty interesting. The Cherokee, like the Native American tribe, Cherokee chief and Confederate general Stand Watie, he surrendered at the close of the Civil War. He was one of the last Confederate commanders to completely surrender. So it's getting to be late June 1865, and the last of the fighting in the Western Theater is what they called it, which would have been, the Kansas, Missouri area. It's starting to finally wrap up where the Confederates are done. They're not fighting anymore because, the Eastern Theater, which is, where we think of where all the Civil War battles happened, and from, Pennsylvania to Maryland, Virginia, and all the way down to Georgia, that was all the Eastern Theater. The Western Theater was, like Kansas and Missouri and Texas, and I don't know if there was any fighting in Arkansas or not, but we're starting to get to the very end, and it's starting to wrap up completely. And this Cherokee chief, who also happened to be a Confederate general, surrenders. 3 years later, Charles Latham Scholes and 2 others are granted a patent for the typewriter, and it was on this day in 1868. We fast forward to 1925. There's an expedition consisting of A.H. McCarthy and H.F. Lambert. This expedition was the first expedition to ever reach the summit of Mount Logan, which happens to be the second highest mountain in North America. 1961, the Antarctic Treaty is enacted, and essentially what that is that the global community had come together and said, okay, Antarctica is a free-for-all. No one nation is going to lay claim to Antarctica. We are declaring that this is a completely free zone, that it's open to anybody and everybody. It is an unclaimed territory, while there are parts of it that are like, hey, this is the U.S.'s spot. This is so-and-so spot. That's basically what this treaty did, is it reserved the continent for free and non-political scientific investigations. So it's meant to be that one place that anyone and everyone can go to, whether your political rivals, your political adversaries. Soviet Union had their space, the United States had its space, and everyone else in between that wanted to go down there and explore. As of 1961, they were free to do that, because this treaty had ironed out that, like, no one country owned the continent of Antarctica. It was a free-for-all. It was a no man's land. So yeah. 2006, it's on this day in 2006 that Aaron Spelling passed away. He died in Los Angeles. He was an American TV producer. Um, he is best known for producing TV shows like The Mod Squad and Fantasy Island, Love Boat, Charlie's Angels, and of course, the popular series when I was in high school, Beverly Hills 90210. He produced that show, but his daughter Tori got a lot of publicity out of it because, well, she was cast in that show, and some would speculate she was cast only because of who her daddy was. He was the producer of the show, so she got a spot on the show, and she played the character of Donna. So fun fact is that the characters in that show were all supposed to be class of 1993. I was class of 1993. In that show, the character of Donna, played by Tori Spelling, was she got a little tipsy, got a little drunk, and she was caught drinking at a dance and was summarily going to be expelled from high school, but her class came together and said that if you expel her, we're all walking out. We're all going to walk out of this school. They staged a walkout. They basically said we'll all quit school right now, and that won't sit well for you. So the school board, slapped her with like a academic probation, and she got to graduate high school. My life imitates art in the sense that I was a graduate of 1993. I went to Oregon City High School of Oregon City, Oregon, the first incorporated city west of the Mississippi. We were the first city of the Oregon Territory. We were the first incorporated United States city west of the Mississippi, while the cities of like San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego existed. They were established as cities that belonged to the Mexican territory, which was the Spanish territory. So their existence is a lot longer, and it predates when the state of California actually became a state in the United States. So that's why we could say that my hometown is actually the first incorporated U.S. city west of the Mississippi. Anyway, I digress. Valentine's Day dance. I went to school. I went to the dance in possession of alcohol. I had a big 32-ounce sport bottle from Plaid Pantry, and it was filled with peach schnapps. I proceeded to drink that, and then I didn't drink it all, and I got caught with it by my mentor, my favorite teacher of all time, Mr. Gibson. He caught me. So here's where the life imitates art here. It was at a dance. Donna was at a dance. I was at a dance. Donna got caught for drinking. I got caught for drinking. She was drunk. I was trying to get there. Gibson had dumped all my booze before I could get to that point. But I was kicked out of the dance, and then I had to go to the school board, and I had an expulsion hearing, and they put me on academic probation for the rest of the year. And so I did get to graduate, even though I really didn't deserve that diploma. I still to this day don't think I deserve that diploma. But at any rate, I could relate. And so when that episode had aired, I was like, holy crap, yeah. I actually watched that show. I watched it not religiously or anything, but I did watch it regularly because it was something I could relate to. I mean, these were high school kids. Granted, I didn't live in Beverly Hills, but I mean, it was a show that high school teenagers could relate to. And the class of 1993, wherever you were across the United States, you related with this show because, it was like that was your high school class, that was your year, that was, the things that they were going through in these episodes were things that, there were issues that we saw in our lives. So, if you ever want to watch an old series, 90210, it was a good one. I enjoyed it. So Aaron Spelling passed away on this day in 2006. It's a long, convoluted storytelling of this day in history. But he was the producer of that show, and it was a tremendous show. So, moving right along. 10 years later, the UK votes to leave the EU. It was this whole Brexit, the British exit. Britons were getting tired of the overbearing rule of the United Nations, the European Union. They no longer wanted to be a participant of the European Union, and I mean I can relate to that sentiment because, personally speaking, I think the United States should get out of the UN and just be, we're done. I get why we won't. I get why we don't. I understand that the day that we leave the UN is the day that we will no longer have peace treaty protections with neighboring, partnering parties, and that would leave us wide open to nations who want to take us out to rally together and be like, this is our time. The only thing that's really keeping everyone at bay from just having this free-for-all is the fact that, as much as the UN is just useless in my opinion, the one good thing that it is that it is, by its nature and however it's able to do it, just its mere presence is keeping foreign forces from just, total anarchy and chaos just ensuing. That's my personal opinion anyway. But so Britons had voted, the UK, the United Kingdom, they voted to leave the European Union, and they had a 51.9%, they were in favor of it. Similarly, I seem to recall that around that time, I'm wanting to say that Scotland wanted to do the same. They wanted to break away from the UK, and they wanted to do their own thing. And the big thing about that was that while the Scottish wanted to be more autonomous, and the big thing for them is that if they left, and I think part of that may have been Brexit. Like, I think Scotland wanted to remain part of the EU. I could have this backwards. I might be mistaken. But the only way for them to still stay a part of the EU was to break away from the UK, because the UK was leaving. But see, what that required that the country of Scotland had to set up its own treasury. They had to have their own monetary system, because the thing is, to be a member of the European Union, you have to pony up your currency to help bolster the euro dollar. The euro dollar is backed by the value of its member nations' monetary systems, whether it's the Deutschmark or it's the franc or it's the German Deutschmark, the French franc, the British pound. There was a lot of logistics that were there that needed to be ironed out, and I don't know, what all came about. I just remember I remember this time period back in 2016 as being huge. We had no skin in the game. Us Americans didn't have any skin in the game, but it was, I mean, I had a Scottish friend that lived here. He's back there now, but he was a Scottish immigrant that lived here in the United States, and he was only affected by Brexit simply because of where his roots come from, and he was like, hey, I have no skin in the game here. I can't vote in this, but vote your conscience, vote your hearts, and best of luck to you, kind of thing. So, I mean, I do remember that being, it was a huge deal for a lot of people. And speaking of the Scottish, we end this day in history with the featured event that happened on this day. So on this day in 1314, it's the Battle of Bannockburn, and the Battle of Bannockburn was a decisive battle where the Scots defeat the British and regain their independence. It was after a treaty was signed, not long after that. The Scottish had their independence. They had become their own kingdom, and they had established Robert the Bruce as king. And when he was installed as king, he was installed as Robert the First. You may know of Robert the Bruce based on the movie Braveheart. While the Braveheart movie is more about William Wallace and his actions in bringing about Scottish freedom, Scottish independence from Edward Longshanks, King of England there. They did have Robert the Bruce featured. There's a lot of stuff there that they omitted. There was a lot of other stuff that Robert the Bruce did that was never covered in the movie, like running away from King Edward until he died, and then he returned, because he was, my understanding based on what I've read is that Robert the Bruce was he wasn't a very effective battlefield commander and was about to lose soundly to the British, and he made his escape. He exiled for a few years, and he waited for Edward Longshanks to die, and then when the King of England died, then he came back and made his move during that transition. That kind of, it was a transition to the rest of Britain. The English were kind of put off because their king had died, and then now they've got this, this new king coming in, and who knows, perhaps their heart wasn't in it, but at any rate, at this particular battle, on this day in 1314, the Battle of Bannockburn, the Scots win their freedom, and the rest is history. So with that concludes this day in history. Have a blessed day. Take care. Be good to each other. We'll do it again tomorrow for June 24th. So, yeah. Take care. All right. Bye.